How's it going, guys? In this video here we're going to convert this all-wheel drive GMC Terrain / Equinox into a front-wheel drive driven vehicle. The reasons that I'm doing it is the solenoids inside of here, that's basically valves, switches all the gears, reverse, first gear all the way through sixth gear. There is a solenoid in here that redirects flow and is basically the computer. It controls every gear in the transmission. A couple of those are bad. Not this one, but the one I took out. But it hangs up real bad in a couple of the gears. Doesn't want to shift. It just like hesitates every time it shifts. Also, my rear end leaked all of its fluid out and was starting to make noise, so it was bad. And then the bearing in my transfer case, this bearing right here went bad. I bought this vehicle with 170-ish thousand miles. The engine was bad, and whenever I went to change the engine, I noticed that there is no seal into this. You see here, it's just, I packed it full of grease a few years ago. I tried 3 different times to get a seal for this. It was missing when I bought the car. Could not find. Finally, I needed the thing to run. I put it together without a seal, packed it full of grease, but this bearing right here is bad. So, and then also that thing there leaked all of its fluid out. There was no fluid in it either. So that's bad. That's bad, and then $400 set of valves, and that transmission was bad with the solenoids. So I just decided that we're going to rip it all out and put the front wheel drive transmission in. So the things that are different is, you can see here we have just a seal end sticking out of here. This right here is pretty much the same as the other transmission, but the all-wheel drive actually has a shaft that sticks out like this. It's still female shaft, but it sticks out to here, and the transfer case goes on there. So they are different transmissions. I'm thinking the original transmission, I'm thinking was like an MH2 or 4, something like that. The difference between them is that you gotta make sure, like, see, if you got the cap here instead of here, you gotta make sure you have a transmission that has the cap right there. This is an MH7, I believe it's called. Another thing with this video, other than converting this over to front wheel drive, is that this is a 2012 transmission and this is a 2011. They say that this transmission will not fit in this car for whatever reason, and they want $600 for this transmission, but all the 2011s, eBay and even call some local yards, want $1,200 at least for a transmission for this MH7. This is also an MH7, but 2012. So far I can't see any differences with the thing. They look identical to each other. I've had them sitting here side by side. Some other things that I've kind of ran into is the motor mount in the back. The motor mount that goes up against the firewall at the bottom. It's just a difference in motor mounts. But you see here, I got a piece of the transfer case right here that I hacksawed off. Now I can go buy the mount that goes on here, but they wanted like $180 for it, and it's just this half of the mount that I need. The other half of it would be the same, I would assume. Unless the whole thing shifts on the car, I don't know, but I just hacksawed a piece of the transmission of the transfer case off, and I'm just going to use it as basically a washer. It would go on, right here. It's, like that. So I'm just going to use that as a washer. There's probably people that would be like, "Oh, I gotta have that right mount." You go right ahead. There's one on the front identical to it, and if it was holding onto the thing, it was standing off when it had the transfer case on there, why wouldn't it, the only thing it's kind of missing is something that holds it here. But at the same time, I was looking at the mount that goes on there, and I don't even think there's anything there at all. So, just the 3 bolts. to change the thing, to get the transmission out of there, had to remove this entire assembly, this frame assembly. Disconnect the steering column from there. Disconnect the tie rod ends and the sway bar links. So that's what you're kind of looking at with that, as far as getting this transmission out. It's either that, or you would still have to take off the hubs on each side to pull the CV joints out, to pull the whole engine and transmission out the top. And then once you get it all out of there, then you still have to separate it. So I just kind of looked at dropping this frame, pulling the transmission off. I'm going to give you a look down in here. You can see no transmission. Got the whole engine held up with this. Staggered across the top. I took the transmission out without any kind of lift. It just hit the floor once I got all the bolts out of it. I just pried it apart and it fell and hit the floor. Don't do what I did. Make sure you remember to unplug every single thing on it. And I looked at this plug how many times while I was pulling it out. Like, I gotta unhook that, I gotta unhook that. And I never did unhooked it. Hit the floor, ripped this whole end off of it. And I ended up rebuilding this. I went to pull apart and got this and pulled all the pins out of here, wires to fix the ones that ripped off of here. Currently pull apart don't have any of these vehicles. This new, they kind of deal with anything 10 years or more, kind of. And auto salvages was refusing to sell me this end, like just to go out to their car, cut it off, unplug it, and sell you this tail end. They will not do it. Some of them just told me they didn't have it, and then I started asking them if they did have it, would they sell it to me, and they said no. So why you won't sell something off a salvage car is beyond me. Maybe they want to sell the entire harness, but at the same time I bought engines from salvage yards, and they just cut all the wires off, so kind of doesn't make much sense. But to put it back in, I got this thing. It's $200, but I figured I need one, and I'll probably use it again. Keep buying junk vehicles like this, I'm gonna need one of those, so I went and picked it up. But anyways, kind of off topic, but it's kind of the things you're going to need. That's kind of why I mentioned this. Things you're going to need to do this job. It's going to be, you could use some kind of jack underneath, but you see this thing's kind of close to the ground. If I was trying to put a jack underneath, there's no room. There's no room to get this underneath there and get a jack underneath of it. If you had some kind of lift, sure. The car was 4 foot, 6 foot off the ground, you could use some kind of jack to get it up in there. But, alright, well, I'll see you later in the video, see if this thing even works in there. And I kind of much went over everything that you need to do. Removing that rear end, which, if you're converting your car over, I just, in order to get these CV shafts out, you'd have to take the hubs off. I don't want to take the hubs off, so I cut one of the shafts in half to get it out, and then I was able to move this all over. So I didn't have to, disassemble the rear end of the car to get this out. But, alright, well, we'll see what we get. Alright, excuse how close this is, because we are underneath the car. But here is that back motor mount, and here is that cut off piece of the transmission, of the transfer case, sorry, sandwiched in between. So I just thought I'd get a shot of this stuff. And you can see here, the bad thing about this is that this end here isn't hooked to nothing, but I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. It's a 4-cylinder, for crying out loud. Here is the intermediate shaft installed, and then the new bracket down here. So I guess this shot's for anybody willing or looking to switch over to front-wheel drive, but that's what you have if you use this mount. There is a mount that bolts in here that wouldn't need this, but I'm being cheap, so. Alright guys, got it all put back together. I'm gonna start it up. We got until everything goes out. Sitting still, there is no lights. It does not detect that there's something wrong with the rear end yet. When you put it in gear, start moving, it so you can see here, it says StabiliTrak. Traction light over here comes on. So it does not have any kind of traction control anymore, which was expected. We're peeling the tires. Runs and drives as it should, as a front-wheel drive car. Now there is the possibility you could go get computers out of one that was just front-wheel drive, or just take it to a dealer and possibly get it re-flashed to being a front-wheel drive model, so then it won't be looking for any of the rear end stuff. More than likely that would work. But yeah, you can switch it over to front-wheel drive, and also a 2012 transmission, which was only $600 delivered to my door, versus the $1,200 or $1,300 that everybody wanted for a 2011 transmission. So there's two things accomplished here. And so yeah, we gotta go. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. One little last ditty that I kind of noticed that I want to mention is the ABS still works. I slammed on it a couple times in the grass, and there's no problem with the ABS. So, you know, that's a good, but there is no traction control. It will spin the tires indefinitely. So you got to keep that in mind if you're interested in doing any of these things. All right, I'll let you guys go now.